Now, Roma Wines present Suspense. Tonight, Drive-In, starring Nancy Kelly. Suspense is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those excellent California wines that can add so much pleasantness to the way you live, to your happiness in entertaining guests, to your enjoyment of everyday meals. Yes, right now a glassful would be very pleasant as Roma Wines bring you Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California, who tonight from Hollywood bring you as star Miss Nancy Kelly in the suspenseful narrative of a Hollywood working girl who, one rainy midnight, found death sitting beside her on the ride home. And so, with Drive-In and with the performance of Nancy Kelly, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
I wish I hadn't let Ruth talk me into serving that last car that came into the drive-in that rainy night. It was late. I was tired. I'd been on my feet all day carrying heavy trays, hopping to it when impatient people glared their headlights on and off in my eyes. And heaven knows there are a lot of impatient people in Hollywood. We car hops don't have an easy time of it. Talk about your mail carriers. Well, we're the same. Raining or blowing or boiling hot, we've got to get through with that tray or know the reason why. Tired, hungry people who sit back in their car and expect $1 million worth of service for a 10-cent tip. Why do we do it? Oh, sure, there are other ways of making a living in Hollywood, but not many that hold that glittering promise that maybe someday, somehow, maybe someone will say,
"Why, that girl looks like Lana Turner."
Yeah, at least her hair's done up that way.
You know, I think I could use her in that new picture of mine. I think I'll ask her to come out to the studio.
Yeah, I know. Well, here we go again.
Oh, maybe it doesn't happen often, but there's always the chance. And there's always that hope. That's what keeps us going, I guess. But there are other things that can happen in a drive-in. Things that aren't on the menu by any manner of means. Like the rainy night I was telling you about when I let Ruth talk me into serving that last car that came in.
Oh, Mildred, please take his order. I've got 3 other cars and I'm waiting for French fries.
Oh, look at the clock, will you? It's near midnight. I'm off duty.
Oh, please, Mildred, just this one more, will you? I'll do the same for you sometime.
But Ruth, Oh, what's the matter with him? Can't he read? Please do not honk your horn. It looks clear enough to me.
Well, it's the doctor's car, see? He's probably in a rush. Anyway, you got nobody waiting.
Oh, all right.
Gee, thanks a lot.
Well, it was true. No one was waiting for me. Only the bus that'd take me to Glendale, where I lived alone in an apartment. So I buttoned up my raincoat and I took a menu over to the car. Good evening.
Never mind the menu. Just some black coffee, a pot of it, and a ham sandwich. Please hurry it.
When I took his order over to the car, the window was rolled up a little too far, and it interfered with the tray, so I reached in to wind it down. When I touched the handle, it felt wet and kind of sticky, too, but I didn't think anything about it, and I got the tray firmly set. And then I looked at my hand. It was as red as blood. I looked up quickly at him.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Dr. Morgan. I just had an emergency in the car.
Oh, an accident?
Yes, Sunset and Vine, quite a crash. I just happened by, and I took one of them to the hospital.
Oh, gee, that's too bad.
Yes, it was very unfortunate.
I walked back, trying to wipe the blood from my hand with a paper napkin. Ooh, it gave me a creepy feeling to have somebody's blood on my hand. Then I went in to wash. I was keeping close track of the time, and I was a little worried for fear the big drive-in clock wasn't right. It sometimes ran slow. So I took a coin from my pocket. I figured it was worth a nickel not to miss that last bus to Glendale. I walked over to the payphone, and I was just about to drop the nickel in when I looked out, and he was leaning on the horn and beckoning to me at the same time. I put the nickel back in my pocket, and I hurried out to him.
I'm sorry, but I'm in a hurry, and I haven't time for this coffee to cool off. I'll take the sandwich with me. How much do I owe you?
40 cents.
40 cents. Here you are. I hope I didn't interrupt your phone call. Wasn't important, was it?
No. I was just checking on the time. I didn't want to miss my bus.
There was a clock right over your head.
Oh, that's usually wrong.
I have the time. It's about 4 minutes to 12.
Oh, gee, I am going to miss my bus.
What time does it leave?
At midnight from Hollywood and La Brea.
Well, hop in. I'll take you. I'm going right past there.
Oh, gee, would you? I'll take the tray and I'll be right back.
Okay.
I might still make it. In my hurry to unhook the tray from the window, I gave it a jerk. It fell crashing to the ground. Oh, Ruth! Ruth, please help me pick these things up, will you? I'm going to miss my bus.
Oh, all right, Mildred, okay.
We picked the things up quickly, and Ruth went off with the tray. I started to run around the other side of the car when I noticed something shining on the ground. It was one of the shakers that had fallen from the tray. I picked it up, and I started running toward the drive-in when he spoke to me.
Why don't you just put that in your pocket? You can return it tomorrow. Come on. You're going to miss your bus.
Well, I put the shaker into my pocket, and I rushed over to the other side of the car, and he opened the door for me. I was just about to get in when I hesitated. I wasn't used to doing this sort of thing. The other girls sometimes let the customers drive them home, but I never did. Still, he looked so decent, and...
Come on, you'll miss it.
Then he reached out as if to help me in. And I thought then that he was really concerned about my missing the bus, for he seemed to pull me into the car. And the first thing I knew, I was sitting beside him. And the door slammed. And we're driving off. I was a little uneasy, but then I thought, no, it's only a few blocks, and I won't be in the car long.
I suppose you're in a hurry because someone's waiting for you.
Oh, no, I live alone, but I'd hate to walk back to Glendale in this rain.
You won't have to walk.
Well, this is very nice of you. I appreciate it.
Not at all. Would you mind rolling up that window on your side? There's a draft.
Oh, of course. You can let me off at that corner over there.
All right.
Anywhere along here will be all right. This is fine. Right over there by that stop sign. Well, you're going right through that stop signal.
Am I?
Yes. But I'll get over there by the other one. My bus... You're turning the wrong way.
Am I?
Yes. This goes up to Laurel Canyon.
Does it? You thought you were pretty smart, didn't you?
I don't know what you mean. Please let me out of this car.
You went right to the phone. You thought I wouldn't see you.
The phone? But I was calling about the time. Honest, I was.
The time? With that clock right over your head?
Oh, but that clock's wrong sometimes. Besides, who would I call? Why should I call anyone about you?
You were calling the police.
Oh, no. Honest, I wasn't. Let me out of this car.
You were going to catch a bus. You were going straight to the police. That's where you were going.
But why should I go to the police?
You know why.
No, really, I don't.
Because you saw it. You saw his blood. No, you don't.
Oh, no, don't.
There. You won't need to try to open that door again. Now we'll be getting along.
Tonight for Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you as star Miss Nancy Kelly, whom you have heard in the prologue to Drive-In by Mel Dinelli and Muriel Roy Bolton. Tonight's tale of Suspense.
This is Truman Bradley for Roma Wines. Haven't you often realized that many of life's finest enjoyments are simple and moderate rather than the opposite? I give you the words of a high and well-loved authority, Miss Elsa Maxwell, international expert on smart entertaining and gracious living.
Good hospitality is always simple, genuine, and moderate. That is why I often suggest enjoyment of delicious Roma Sauterne when you have friends in to dinner or with your everyday meals. Serve this delicate golden Sauterne well chilled with any food in any glasses you have. Special wine glasses are pretty, but not essential to the enjoyment of Roma wine.
Now, what can I add to such charming good sense as that? Maybe just this. Roma Sauterne and all Roma wines are the best that California's magnificent sun-ripened grapes can provide, in glorious color, fragrance, and flavor, protected for you by the ancient wine skill of Roma's famed wineries. That's why Roma wines and Roma quality do not vary, never fall short, but are always enjoyable. Unchanging high quality gives tremendous popularity to Roma wines and makes low cost possible. Only pennies a glass. Remember, more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wines. R-O-M-A, Roma wines.
And now it is with pleasure that we bring back to our soundstage Miss Nancy Kelly in Drive-In, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
After I made that last try to get out, and he broke the handle of the door, all the strength seemed to go out of my body. I just sat there as we drove on. We passed a few people and some cars in the next blocks, and I thought of calling out, and then I knew why he'd asked me to roll up the window when I'd first gotten into the car. And then we were at the mouth of the canyon, and I could see the road dark and lonely up ahead. The car twisted and swerved. My arm ached from his strong fingers that had dug into it when I tried to jump out. I looked at him from the corner of my eye. He hadn't seemed like a criminal back at the drive-in, and he didn't seem like one now. His jaw was black from needing a shave, and still his face, well, it wasn't like a criminal's at all. It was so tired.
Quit staring at me.
Look, I didn't know anything about you. Honest, I didn't. Please let me go.
You know something about me now.
I won't tell anybody. Whatever it is, I promise you I won't.
A woman's promises. Remind me to tell you a story about a woman and a promise.
Let me out. Please let me out right here.
It's a long way back to Glendale.
Well, that's all the better. It'll take me hours to get back, and you'll be miles away by then.
I'm not taking any chances with you, kid.
Please. Oh, please let me out. I've got to get back.
You said no one was waiting for you. You live alone, don't you? No one will miss you.
We both heard the siren then. He looked quickly into the rear vision mirror. Then he took a gun from his pocket, and he turned to me.
If that's for us, and we'll stop, remember this. I've used this gun before tonight, and I can use it again if I have to. If I'm taken, you'll go first. But now listen, I'm a doctor and you're a nurse, and we're headed on an emergency. If you want to live, you won't try to pull anything. Now remember that. Remember it.
Well, going awful fast for a wet night, aren't you? Followed you all the way up from Hollywood.
I'm Dr. Morgan, and this is Nurse Johnson on an emergency call.
Let's see your identification.
Well, let's see.
He fumbled for his pocket with one hand, holding the gun to my ribs with the other. The motorcycle cop looked over at me. I thought for a moment that I could signal him with my eyes. But then I knew he wasn't looking at my face. He was looking down at my white starched blouse, which he could see under my raincoat. He thought it was a nurse's uniform.
Here you are, officer.
Okay, Doc. Sorry I stopped you.
Well, that's that.
Hey! Hey, wait a minute.
What's the matter?
I just wanted to tell you. The rain started to slide up there a ways. Better take it easy.
Thanks. I will.
You're not Dr. Morgan, are you?
What do you think?
Then we came to the landslide. It wasn't a big one, but it made a terrible mess of the road. He didn't slow down, and the car swerved crazily as it slipped from one side of the highway to the other. Suddenly, it felt as though the whole rear end had slipped out. I looked over at him. He was tense. His knuckles turned white as he clutched the wheel. He shoved the car into reverse. I hoped it would never move. And it didn't. We were stuck. Hopelessly stuck.
Oh, of all the luck.
Suddenly the car was filled with light. A car had come around the curve behind us. This might be my chance.
Remember, I still have this gun. Now, don't try anything.
Hey! We're stuck here. Could you give us a push? Thank you very much.
Well, have some California hospitality. Oh, I'll have to get out. I'll have to put something under the wheel. You stay here.
There were some bushes by the side of the road. If I could reach them, I could perhaps run up the side of the hill and hide. And then in the morning, I could make my way back down the canyon. I slipped under the wheel, and I carefully turned the handle of the door on his side of the car. I could see him in the mirror. He was at the back of the car. I eased the door gently open. I put one foot out. I was just sliding out when I heard him.
You're not going anyplace. Come here. Give me that raincoat.
Why?
I need something dry to stuff under this wheel.
Oh, but
You won't be needing it.
I hesitated a moment, but he practically ripped it off my back. He wound it into a ball, and bending down, he stuffed it under the wheel. The gun. It stuck out of his back pocket. If I could get it, if I could lay my hands on it. I held my breath, and I reached out. It seemed so far. But I finally touched it. And then I snatched it from his pocket swiftly.
Give me that gun.
I'm going. You can't stop me now.
Can't I?
No. No, you stay right where you are. I won't hurt you. All I want is to get home. I'm going, but if you follow me,
You're what?
I'll kill you.
I don't think you will.
Oh, yes, I will. You think I'm afraid?
Aren't you?
No, I don't care what happens to you. You're a murderer. You killed somebody.
I thought you didn't know anything about
I
me.
didn't, but I do now, and I'm going to tell the police. Stay where you are. No, I'm not afraid. I'll shoot.
It's too bad I used up all of those tonight. You could have filled me full of holes. Give me that gun. Now get in the car. That's better.
Are you going to kill me?
What do you think?
We were nearing the top of the canyon now. The road was very steep. The rain had let up. It was just drizzling now. Even though he hadn't answered my question, I knew the answer. He was going to kill me. I wouldn't get back home tonight. Not tonight or any other night. It was funny. I sometimes used to hate that little apartment of mine where nothing ever happened. But tonight... And then, for some reason, I I thought about Ruth. What would she say tomorrow when I didn't show up at work? And then I wondered where they'd find my body.
Well, here we are. Lookout Mountain, the top of the world.
Suddenly, we came over the crest of the hill, and way down below, the city stretched out for miles. Millions of lights glittering in the rain. For a moment, I forgot everything. It was the most beautiful sight I'd ever seen.
Ever been up here before?
No.
It's nice, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
I used to come up here with a girl once. We used to sit and talk for hours. Come on. We'll get a better view if we get out.
I knew it was foolish to argue, so I followed him. But as he walked over towards the edge, I became frightened. It was such a steep drop.
Well, come on.
I'm afraid to get so close to the edge.
You won't fall. Look. That's Los Angeles over there. That bright line of lights is Western Avenue. I went to school somewhere along in there. I used to get into all sorts of trouble at school. But I got by. I managed. And everyone said I'd grow out of it. And over that way, towards the ocean, that's Westwood. That's where she lived. This girl I was telling you about. That was the best part of my life, I guess. That's when they said marriage and a wife would straighten me out. Marriage and a wife would straighten me out in Westwood, they said.
Does your wife still live there?
No. She's dead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You needn't be. I killed her.
Oh, why?
Because she couldn't keep her promises.
Did you kill her tonight?
No. A long time ago. The jury said I was insane. But I think it was the sanest thing I ever did. They put me in an asylum. Do you know what it's like being locked up year after year when you know there's nothing wrong with you?
No.
It isn't good. If you'd do anything to get out, anything.
I knew if I could keep him talking, maybe a car would come along. Maybe something would happen. It was my only chance.
What are you thinking about?
You killed someone else tonight, didn't you?
Yes.
Dr. Morgan?
Yes. He was one of the men who thought I was insane.
Why did you do it?
I wanted his car to get away in. I didn't want to be locked up anymore.
Oh, but they'll catch you.
No. No, they won't find the doctor for several days. I saw to that.
But how can you be so sure?
I do things thoroughly.
What are you going to do now?
First, I'm going to... Oh. Then I guess I'll go south.
I knew what he meant by that pause. I started to back away slowly. I'd made a mistake by reminding him of the present. My hands went instinctively to my pocket for something to defend myself with. I knew there was a pencil there. It was sharp. Maybe I could scratch him or hurt him some way with it. But when I reached for it, I felt something else instead. Something cold and hard. I was puzzled for a moment, and then I remembered it was the shaker I'd picked up at the drive-in.
You can't get away now.
Then he started moving toward me. Me with only a pencil and a shaker to defend myself with.
It's too bad I came into that drive-in tonight.
Why did you?
Because I was hungry. Because I hadn't eaten for a long time.
Weren't you afraid someone would see you?
No alarm had gone out.
How did you know?
I knew. Oh, I'm sorry. If only you hadn't rolled that window down.
If you're sorry, why don't you let me go?
It's too late. What's that?
car was coming over the top of the hill. With a sudden movement, his arms were about me in a tight embrace. I started to scream, but suddenly his lips closed over mine. Pushing my head back roughly, he kissed me. I could scarcely breathe, and I felt the car's headlights on us like a spotlight.
Well, just look at this view, will you? You know, I'll have to do this in a picture sometime.
Can't you see we're interrupting something? Drive on, will you?
Where? Oh, in all this rain. You'd think people would have more sense. Come on.
He held me a moment longer, and when the car had gone, he released me. My pencil had fallen to the ground, and I was left with only the shaker in my hand. I fingered it nervously, and then I felt the top coming off. I felt the contents spilling into my hand.
What have you got in your hand?
Nothing?
Give it to me.
No.
Give it to me!
He grabbed my wrist, and he pulled me toward him. We were moving to the edge of the cliff, but my other hand was free, and I threw the contents of the shaker into his face. His hand flew to his face in an effort to clear his eyes, but it was too late. The pepper had blinded him. He lunged out for me, but I stepped aside quickly, and he slipped in the mud. His hands went out to steady himself. He clawed frantically at thin air, and then I saw him falling over backwards, over the edge. And my strength gave away, and I felt myself sinking down to the ground. I don't know how long I must have been there, but when I came to, it was raining again. I was soaked to the skin, and there was mud caked in my hair. And there was no one in sight. The lights of Los Angeles stretched out in a pattern peacefully below, and I knew that somewhere at the foot of those hills was Glendale and my apartment. I rose slowly to my feet, and I started back toward the road. And somehow, everything that had happened seemed unreal, like a dream. Everything except the way he kissed me to keep me from crying out.
And so closes Drive-In, starring Nancy Kelly. Tonight's study in Suspense. Suspense is produced, edited, and directed by William Spear.
We are sometimes asked, why does Miss Elsa Maxwell always say it is smart to serve Roma wine? Her explanation is simple.
It is smart to serve Roma wine, first of all, because Roma wines are so delicious, so good with food or any time. It is smart further because Roma wine affords simple pleasure, enjoyment that is truly moderate. Finally, it is smart because it is such an easy and inexpensive addition to hospitality and everyday living.
Yes, in every way, it is smart to serve and enjoy Roma wines. They are California's finest, always good, unvaryingly fine in flavor and quality. And remember, the cost is only pennies a glass. More Americans enjoy Roma than any other wines. Roma, R-O-M-A, Roma wines.
Nancy Kelly appeared through the courtesy of RKO and will soon be seen in their production, Betrayal from the East. The part of the man was played by Wally Mayer. Next Thursday, same time, we will have an unusual program for you that you won't want to miss. It will bring you, in his first appearance as a dramatic actor, Mr. Frank Sinatra. And appearing with Mr. Sinatra will be that incomparable actress, Miss Agnes Moorehead. Don't miss them next week on Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Suspense. Tonight, To Find Help, starring Frank Sinatra and Agnes Moorehead.
My roomer, Mr. Armstrong, tried to warn me that morning he left on his business trip. I remember we were just finishing breakfast and he was rather in a hurry.
I don't care what you say, Mrs. Gillis. I just plain don't like it. You're alone here in the house all day. There are no close neighbors. And after all, you know nothing about the man.
Good gracious, Mr. Armstrong, you'd think I was a pretty young thing of 20 to hear you tell it.
And another thing. Seems very strange to me that a young man should be job hunting from door to door in this day and age. Why, there are plenty of jobs to be had.
That's just why it's so difficult to find help these days. Oh, you're a worrywart, Mr. Armstrong. And now that I've found someone to do my heavy work, I'm not going to let your silly notions change my mind.
All the same, though, I'm not leaving the house this morning till I get a look at the guy.
I remember I kept worrying about poor Mr. Armstrong missing his train because it was getting to be 9 o'clock. He dried the breakfast dishes for me, and as he talked, he kept looking out of the window towards the long driveway.
Hey, here he comes. Well, I guess I needn't have worried.
Mr. Armstrong was smiling, for he'd seen my young man who was coming up the driveway. And I smiled, too. Even I had forgotten what a meek, harmless-looking lad he was. Why, he could hardly be called a man at all, I thought.
So that's the critter who's been causing me all this mental anguish.
There, you see, you and your silly ideas.
Why, the little guy's not strong enough to keep a regular job, I suppose.
Why, I believe Sarah's getting some of your foolish notions, Mr. Armstrong.
There now, Sarah. I'm sorry that we made you nervous about him. Why, if you could see the guy.
He'll hear you. Oh, good morning. Good morning. I've been expecting you. This is my roomer, Mr. Armstrong. I don't believe you told me your name.
I'm Howard Wilton, ma'am.
Hello, Howard. I'm glad you come. I know you'll be a great help to Mrs. Gillis. And you'll be company, too. Well, I'm off. Take care of yourself. I don't think you'll have much trouble.
I don't believe your dog likes me, Mrs. Gillis.
Oh, yes, of course she does. But she's just getting a little old and peasy.
Oh.
Come along now, Howard, and I'll show you where to hang your coat.
Yes. Oh, yes. I always hang my coat up.
He followed me into the closet storeroom at the back of the house. Then I handed him a clothes hanger and a rough, heavy apron, which I kept for cleaning help.
Is this apron clean, Mrs. Gillis?
Why, of course it's clean. No one's worn it since it was laundered last.
But there are spots on it. See?
Spots? Oh, here, let me look at it. Oh, that's paint. No dirt and dried paint.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd rather not wear it.
Well, what do you wear then? You didn't bring out the clothes, did you?
I'm a neat worker, Mrs. Gillis. You needn't worry about my clothes. No.
I turned, and the light hitting his face from the small window made him look so different. I was startled for a moment, and then I thought, you're a silly old woman, Mrs. Gillis. And then I smiled.
Are you laughing at me, Mrs. Gillis?
Oh, I know. I was laughing at myself. Come along. Let's get started now. He'd only been at the den floor a short time when I heard him walk back to the closet storeroom. Can I help you, son?
I'm going after my coat, Mrs. Gillis. I don't like it being out there in the storeroom. It's a breeding place for moths, you know.
Oh, now, son, it takes longer than that for moths to do any damage.
Perhaps you won't think it's quite so amusing when I tell you that it's my best and only coat.
Oh, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, Howard. Where would you like to put it? In the kitchen, perhaps?
No, the cooking fumes wouldn't be good for it. I'll take it right in the den with me. That is, if you don't mind.
Oh, go right ahead, Howard.
If you don't mind.
Suddenly, I was thankful that there was a phone. He was such a peculiar boy. I wasn't really alarmed. Not then, I wasn't. Still, it was good to know the phone was there. And that old Sarah was still in the breakfast room asleep. I went on about my own work that morning, but several times I went into the den to have a look at him. He wasn't doing much, I could see that. He seemed to keep polishing one small square in the corner of the room. Is there anything you need, Howard? Howard? Howard?
I won't be spied upon, Mrs. Gillis. I won't put up with that.
Well, see here, lad. I think we must have gotten off on the wrong foot. I'm not spying on you.
Then why do you keep popping in like this?
Why?
Would you like me to go faster? Would you like me to spill out my life's blood for you here on the floor? Is that what you're after?
Howard, are you well? Are you well enough to work?
Of course I'm well. If only you'd quit bothering and pestering and questioning me. Is that too much to ask?
Well, look, Howard, I'm interested in young men. I have 2 boys of my own. They're in the service. You see that Bill on the desk there? He's a Marine. And on the table there, that's Dennis. He's in the infantry. He's overseas.
Oh. So that's why you hate me. I see it all now.
Hate you? Well, whatever gave you that?
Yes, you hate me. I could tell it the moment I walked into this house this morning.
But Howard...
You hate me because I'm young and I'm not in the service like your boys.
Why, it never occurred to me. You must know I was grateful when you came looking for work.
Grateful? You resented me. The only reason you have me here is to work my life's blood away, to punish me for not being in the service just because your sons are in the service and I'm out.
Son, you're ill. Let's put the work away now, and I'll make you a cup of tea.
Oh, so you don't want me to do the job, is that it? You're like the Army. There was a job to be done, and they wouldn't let me in. Now you'd like to stop me in the middle of this.
I only want you to do whatever will make you feel better.
Well, leave me alone, then.
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis.
Yes?
I'll tell you why I'm not in the Army, if you insist.
I don't insist at all, Howard.
If you must know, I'll tell you. They said there was something wrong with my mind. Yes, I just thought maybe you'd like to know, Mrs. Gillis. They said there was something wrong with my mind.
The first thing that I thought of when I reached the hallway was the phone, but it was in the den with Howard. I ran quickly to the back door, but it was locked, and the key wasn't in its usual place. The front door, it was locked, too. And I heard a crash. It came from the den. I rushed in to find Howard peacefully polishing away at the same spot. He hadn't moved an inch. He didn't look up at me. Then I saw the phone, which had fallen to the floor beside him. But it hadn't just fallen. The wires had been torn out of the wall.
The phone, Mrs. Gillis, it fell.
But the wires...
I suppose you think I ruined your phone.
The wires?
That happened when it fell to the floor.
It couldn't have.
That happened when it fell to the floor.
But it couldn't have.
I don't suppose you'll be able to use it anymore, Mrs. Gillis. Not for a while, anyway.
No, I don't suppose I will. Sarah! Here, Sarah! Here, Sarah!
Mrs. Gillis.
Yes?
You looking for your dog?
Yes, I haven't seen her all morning. She was in the breakfast room.
Well, she's not there any longer.
Yes, I know. Where is she, Howard?
Where is she?
Yes, where is she?
She's gone.
Gone? If you've harmed her...
She didn't like me, you know.
See here, I've put up with enough, you know. You tell me where my dog is.
What, Mrs. Gillis? You'll do what, Mrs. Gillis?
Sarah,
what will you do?
Sarah!
She's gone, Mrs. Gillis. I told you that.
You've harmed my dog.
Have I?
You killed her. Oh, poor old Sarah who never hurt a thing.
She would have hurt me.
You're bad, Howard. You're wicked. You're wicked. You're a coward.
I'm not
You're
a coward, Mrs. Gillis.
Yes, you are.
Cowards are afraid to kill.
Only a coward would kill a poor old dog.
Well, if I were a coward, I'd be afraid of you, and I'm not afraid of you.
Now, you let me out of here. Let me out.
I have strong hands, Mrs. Gillis. My fingers are like steel.
I've never harmed you.
No, and Sarah didn't either, but she would have if I hadn't harmed her
Let
first.
me out of here.
You're getting
Let
very
me out.
noisy, Mrs. Gillis. Perhaps if I locked you in this closet, you'd calm down a bit.
Coward! Coward! And then I heard the key turn in the lock. For a moment, I had the feeling of unreality. What was really happening? But I found out soon enough it wasn't a dream. For the dim light from the little square window picked out a limp, lifeless object in the corner among the dusty mops. I knew without looking further what it was. Poor Sarah. Sarah, who never harmed a soul. I don't know how long he kept me there. I could hear him moving about the house, but he finally came back. He spoke to me through the door.
Have you calmed down, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes, Howard. Yes. Let me out.
Why?
Well, because it's warm in here. Because I want to get out.
You were looking for your dog, weren't you?
Well, never mind about that, Howard. Just let me out.
You know, Mrs. Gillis, if I kept you in there, you wouldn't be able to spy on me ever again.
I won't spy on you, Howard. Please let me out.
Do you know what I've been doing, Mrs. Gillis?
No.
I've been doing your den floors, just like you asked me to.
And that's fine, Howard.
It was fine being able to work peacefully, knowing that you were someplace where you couldn't bother me.
I won't bother you, Howard.
It was very peaceful. Nobody to bother me.
Let me out, Howard.
Will you promise to do as I tell you?
Yes, I promise.
Anything?
Anything.
Very well, then. Now, no tricks.
No.
Feel my hands, Mrs. Gillis.
He held them out before him. They were thin, weird-looking hands. Then he turned them over slowly, and he looked down at them.
Are they nice hands, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes. Yes, they're nice hands.
But you haven't felt them.
I knew better than to argue, and I forced myself to take hold of one of them. It was icy cold, and the floor wax had made it sticky.
Have your sons as nice hands as these?
Oh, no. No, they haven't.
But they got into the army, didn't they? I'm just as good as they are, you know.
Oh, of course you are, Howard. Wouldn't you like some food, lad? You haven't eaten all day, you know.
Some food would be good.
Let me fix you some.
Mrs. Gillis, you know, a woman I worked for once said my hands were weak.
She did?
Yeah, but she soon found out, however.
Well, here, now, lad, I have some nice cold roast in the icebox.
I taught her a lesson.
And it'll only take me a minute to fix some salad.
Are your son's hands strong, Mrs. Gillis?
Not as strong as yours, Howard. I'll set the table right away.
Mrs. Gillis, feel my hands again. They're like steel, you know.
I finally managed to get some lunch on the table, and Howard sat beside me. He didn't say much, and he ate very little. I tried to appear casual, to engage him in a conversation, just anything. Do you work often, Howard?
Not often.
Well, did you have trouble finding jobs?
Well, people are anxious to find help these days, weren't you?
Yes, to find help.
Mrs. Gillis, they're looking for me.
Who, Howard?
Well, I don't know exactly. The people I worked for last, I guess.
Well, was that here, in this town?
Oh, no. It was in another town. Everyone was looking for me, so I went away. It was horrible to be spied upon, Mrs. Gillis. Do you know what it is to be spied upon?
No, I don't.
Would you like to know?
No, I wouldn't, Howard.
I think I'll spy on you for the rest of the day so that you'll know how it feels.
No, Howard. Whatever it is you want, just take it and go away.
There's nothing I want, Mrs. Gillis. I only want to stay here with you.
I can't stand it, Howard. I can't. I am an old woman. Now, please go away and leave me alone.
I'm not going away, Mrs. Gillis. There's still a job to be done. I'll go away after I've done everything that's to be done.
Howard, I have some money here in my pocket. I got it upstairs, but it's a great deal, and I'll give it to you.
I don't want your money, Mrs.
Well,
Gillis.
then go away.
Oh, that would be foolish. Then you'd tell him.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't really, Howard. Go away, and I'll never tell us so that you've been here. I won't tell us
I don't
so.
believe you, Mrs. Gillis, and I don't trust you. There's only one way of being certain that you won't tell, and that...
My heart jumped. For when I looked out the window, I saw that it was the milkman. Howard moved quickly to the window.
Tell him to go away.
I can't. I've ordered some extra things.
And go into the storeroom until he goes.
I can't, Howard. He knows I'm here, and he'll expect me to pay him.
You promised to do as I told you. Now, will you tell him to go away?
Howard, if I tell him to go, he'll think something's wrong, and then you'll get caught for sure.
All right, Mrs. Gillis. Take whatever you've ordered, but if you pull any tricks, you'll be sorry.
He opened the cabinet drawer, and I saw him take a knife out. Without another word, he stepped back between the stove and the wall, but he was still within easy reach of me. Oh, my hands were shaking. The milkman knocked as usual at the window over the sink. Just a moment.
Well, good afternoon, Miss Gillis.
Good afternoon.
Lovely day, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Miss Gillis, I think I have good news for you.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Beginning the 1st, I think we're getting some badly needed help. In the future, your deliveries will be made in the early morning.
Well, that's nice.
I don't believe you ever did like these late deliveries, did you?
Well, I never really minded.
Well, if all our customers were like you, Miss Gillis, it wouldn't be such a bad world. Here you are. 1 quart of milk, pint of half and half. Bye, Miss Gillis.
But the extra things, you forgot them.
The extra things?
Yes, the extra things. Now, don't tell me you've forgotten them. The eggs and the butter.
I'll get them right away.
Mrs. Gillis, I'm going to give you one more chance. When he comes back, you're going to get rid of him. Do you hear? And if you give me away, I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you before he can get inside this house, and I don't care what happens.
I won't give you away, Howard. I won't give you away. I'll only pay him. I have to do that.
Shut up and remember.
Well, here you are, Miss Gillis.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Miss Gillis, I'm
sorry, I can't stop to talk to them. Howard stood for a moment behind the stove, his eyes were blazing. Then he spoke without moving.
You're very clever, aren't you, Mrs. Gillis?
What do you mean?
You thought you were going to put something over on me, didn't you?
I sent him away, didn't I?
The extra things you ordered. There weren't
Yes,
any.
there were. You saw him. You heard him.
He didn't know what you were talking about.
The milkman had returned. He stood outside the window. Howard looked at me, and I saw his knuckles go quiet. And he touched his knife.
This is your last chance. Get rid of him.
Yes, I will. I will, Howard, I will.
Sorry to bother you again, Miss Gillis, but you forgot the points on the butter.
Oh, yes. Yes, the ration point. Here you are.
Sorry I had to bother you, Miss Gillis, but you see, I have to...
Yes, I'm busy. Can't you see I'm busy?
Tell me when he's gone, Mrs. Gillis.
I stood by the window and watched. He got into his truck, and then he drove off.
So that was your scheme, was it? So you wanted to give me away.
He's gone now, Howard.
You thought he'd save you, didn't you?
No, I sent him away like you asked me.
Do you know what would have happened to me? Do you? They would have taken me away.
Howard, leave me alone.
I'm going to punish you.
No, Howard, I've been punished.
No, you haven't.
Standing very close now, and I knew he still held the knife. And suddenly, everything was black, and I slipped to the floor. When I came to, I was in a den, on the den floor. My head throbbed. Then I remembered everything. I lay there for a moment. And listened. Then I heard a sound. A soft, shivering sound. Suddenly, the hall clock began to strike. Why, it was 5. I'd been unconscious for longer than I'd thought. I sat up. The room had already turned dark in the late afternoon light. But I could see him now. He stood in the middle of the room. He was pushing my heavy floor polisher Back and forth. Back.
What time is it, Mrs. Gillis?
About 5.
Well, I guess I'll call it a day now. I've done a nice job, haven't I?
Yes, Howard. Very nice.
I think I'll be going now.
I got to my feet. He paid no attention. He picked up his coat, which he'd placed over a chair when he'd taken it from the storeroom. Then he looked at the floor again.
Doesn't it shine nicely, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Was it worth $5 to you?
Oh, yes, Howard.
I have nice hands, haven't I, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes, Howard, you have. Here, take the money.
Thank you. You know, it's a pity they have to be used to polish floors.
You've done such a good job, Howard. I'm going to give you a few extra dollars.
Thank you. Will you be needing me tomorrow, Mrs. Gillis?
No, thank you, Howard.
The door's locked, Mrs. Gillis.
Yes, Howard. Do you have a key?
Yes, I do. I just remembered. A lot of things. Mrs. Gillis, there's someone at the door.
Yes, Howard. Will you open it?
Oh, should I?
Yes, Howard, you have the key.
I have? This it, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes. Yes, it is. Open the door. Open the door, Howard. Open it.
All right, Mrs. Gillis.
Hello. I'm Mr. Stevens of the phone company. Your phone's been reported out all day. I'm sorry we couldn't get around any sooner, but we're really swamped.
Mrs. Gillis, is your phone out of order?
No, there must be some mistake.
Well, now, that's strange. We've had several reports. Maybe I better run back and check my books in the...
Just a moment, Mr. Stevens. Could you do me a favor?
Well, certainly.
This boy...
Mrs. Gillis.
This boy, he's worked here all day. He's done a good job, but I don't think he's well.
I'm all right, Mrs. Gillis.
Oh, but you're tired, aren't you? Aren't you tired, Howard? Doesn't your head ache?
Yes. Yes, I am tired. And my head does ache.
Well, maybe Mr. Stevens will be kind enough to drive you to the car line.
Sure, I'll be glad to, Mrs. Gillis, but I can't wait long.
Well, right away, and I'll go along, too. I have some marketing to do. And, Mr. Stevens, as long as you're here, would you mind checking the phone just to make sure?
Of course.
I'll show you where it is.
Can I show him, Mrs. Gillis?
No, Howard, you wait here. We'll be right back. I moved quickly towards the den. Mr. Stevens followed me. Once inside, I closed the door behind us. He spotted the wrist wires at once.
Say, this...
Boy, that man is dangerous. Drive us to the police station as fast as you can. Where is... Howard! We've got to find him. We can't let him get away.
We'll take the truck. Come on.
But when we reached the car, I suddenly saw him. He was sitting in the front seat, with his coat folded neatly over his lap.
Were you looking for me, Mrs. Gillis?
Yes, Howard. Yes, I was. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready. It's very kind of you to do this to me. I'm very tired. I can't seem to remember things.
Well, don't try to, Howard.
Well, we all ready?
All ready, Mr. Stevens.
All ready, Mr. Stevens.
And so closes To Find Help, starring Frank Sinatra and Agnes Moorehead. Tonight's study in Suspense. Suspense is produced, edited, and directed by William Spear. Suspense.
Armed Forces Radio Service.
Now, Roma Wines present
Suspense. Tonight, Drury's Bones, starring Boris Karloff.
Suspense is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those excellent California wines that can add so much pleasantness to the way you live, to your happiness in entertaining guests, to your enjoyment of everyday meals. Yes, right now a glass full would be very pleasant, as Roma Wines bring you
Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California, who tonight from Hollywood bring you as star Mr. Boris Karloff in the remarkable history of a Scotland Yard inspector who found himself in surely the most ironic predicament ever to confront an officer of the law. And so, with Drury's Bones and with the performance of Boris Karloff, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
The events that are covered in this report began on the night of December the 28th, 1910, although I didn't know it at the time. But it was on that night that I opened my eyes to discover that I was lying behind some trash barrels in a dark London alleyway. Thunder was ripping the skies apart, and the sheets of rain that were pelting on my unprotected body had soaked me to the skin. My head was aching unbearably. As I automatically tried to rise, I found I was so dizzy that I had to hold on to the barrels for support. I reached up to feel of my head. My hair was a mass of clotted blood. In my numb mind, I could feel only one urge. I had to find a lighted building somewhere where someone could get me warm clothing and call a doctor. It seemed hours before finally I saw an office building in which a light was burning and gratefully stumbled in its direction.
Listen to this, Peters. It's a report from the... Why, who are you?
I beg your pardon.
Great heavens, man. Come over here by the fire. Here, I'll give you a hand. Here, let me help. That's it. Good Lord. Look at that head. Peters.
Yes, sir.
You better call the doctor.
Right, sir.
Let's get some of these wet clothes off, eh? Easy now.
This is very kind of you.
Now the trousers. That's it. Robbed, eh?
I suppose so.
Suppose?
Yes. You see, I don't know.
Oh, come, sir. You must know whether or not you had a pocketbook. There's nothing here now, certainly.
There's nothing?
Who are you, by the way?
What?
I say, let's have your name.
My name is... My name? I don't know my name. I don't know. I must have fainted, because the next thing I knew, I was lying on the couch in the office, covered with warm blankets and slowly returning to consciousness. My benefactor and the doctor were talking in hushed voices near the bed.
You say no identification on him, eh?
Nothing except these. I found them under his hatband.
2 ticket stubs, Drury Lane Theatre, December 24th, 1910. Have you checked there?
Oh, there's no possible way to trace them.
I'll have to call him something.
Yeah.
Drury, that's it. Off to the Drury Lane. And Terence off to you, Inspector Terence Drury.
Oh, very well. How long do you suppose this condition will last?
Amnesia? No way of knowing. I'd suggest a bit of rest and then some kind of absorbing work. Not strenuous, of course. Mustn't be allowed to brood, you see.
Danger in this sort of thing lies in a man's working himself into a genuine psychosis from worry.
I see.
I say, Carruthers, why don't you put him to work here? At least until you locate his family. After all, you can't very well turn your back on the chap now that he's named after you.
Well, as a matter of fact, it happens that I could use a new man around here very nicely.
Well, there you are.
And as to forgetting one's worries and absorbing work, I can't think of a better place in the world for a man to do that than Scotland Yard.
Tonight for Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Mr. Boris Karloff, whom you've heard in the prologue to Harold Swanton's radio play, Drury's Bones. Tonight's tale of Suspense.
This is Truman Bradley for Roma Wines. When you listen to the friendly advice of Miss Elsa Maxwell about hospitality and gracious living, you realize that here is an authority who talks plain common sense all the time.
I'm talking to men as well as women when I say that the finest hospitality is always simple, sincere, moderate, and natural, never the opposite. And so I am always emphasizing that the nicest, simplest, most sincerely flattering hospitality is to serve your guests some Roma sherry. With its golden amber color, its delicious, tangy, nut-like flavor. It's not only supremely enjoyable before dinner or in the afternoon, it's smartly correct, a genuine compliment to your friends and to yourselves. And please don't worry about special glasses. It is perfectly correct to use any nice glasses that are handy.
Well, Miss Maxwell speaks more authoritatively than I can, but I will add this. Roma Sherry, like all famous Roma wines made from California's magnificent sun-ripened grapes, brings you all their fine flavor, aroma, and color, is unvaryingly good, always enjoyable, thanks to the age-old wine skill of Roma's noted wineries located in the choicest vineyard areas of California. Yet all this goodness and pleasure is yours for only pennies a glass. Remember, more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wines. Roma, R-O-M-A, Roma Wines.
And now it is with pleasure that we bring back to our soundstage Boris Karloff as Inspector Terence Drury, who resumes his report on the case entitled Drury's Bones, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
An amazing stroke of fate that brought me to the London office of Scotland Yard on that dreadful night of December 1910. For I'm sure that nowhere else could I have had more kindness and understanding. Of course, at first the strain was almost unbearable. I had absolutely no recollection of my past. I had no idea who the man was who lived the first 30 years of my life. Or was it 40? Or 20? I never knew. But Carruthers judged me to be about 30, so I came to regard that as my official age. And he was ingenious in providing interesting work for me. During the days that followed, I became so absorbed in the tide of fascinating cases that flowed across my desk that I had no time for thought or reflection on my plight. My own dossier at last reached what is called the inactive file and was gradually forgotten. In short, my present and my future became so interesting that I came to regard my past as a closed book. And so it was, as a full-fledged inspector, I reported one day in May of 1930 to Chief Inspector Carruthers.
Oh, hello, Drury. Have a chair.
Thanks.
Cigar?
Yes, I will, thank you. Havana, eh? Decently prosperous for a Scotland Yard man, Inspector. Sure you're not involved in a scandal of some sort?
I'm sorry, old boy. Gift from my niece. Have a light.
Only one other conclusion, then. You're about to cancel my holiday.
Well, as a matter of fact...
Murder in Soho, I suppose.
No, not in Soho. In Clovelly.
Clovelly? Clovelly? That's a fishing village in Devon.
That's it. Bit of a resort town, too, you know. Thought you might be able to combine business with pleasure.
I do need a rest, you know.
Now, I have here a letter from a Mr. John Stanhope, who resides in Clovelly. It seems he unearthed a human skeleton in his backyard, apparently buried there for years. Or it'll just be a matter of securing a routine report on the case, perhaps questioning this Mr. Stanhope and possibly a few of the local residents. Then you can pop down to Torquay and bask in the sun for a few days. Ever been in North Devonshire?
I avoid it religiously. I'm allergic to moors.
Well, what do you think of it?
Well, if it were anyone else but you, Carruthers. I suppose I'd better write this all down. John Stanhope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have his address?
Oh, there's no such thing as an address in Clovelly. There's only one street. But you won't have any trouble finding it.
Oh.
From what I hear, the townspeople will be quick enough to tell you all about the place where the bones are buried.
How do you do, sir? Welcome to Clovelly.
How do you do? My name is Drury, Scotland Yard.
You'll want a single, I expect.
Yes, if you have one.
Just sign the register, please.
Very well. There. I understand that Mr. John Stanhope was to leave a message here for me.
Oh, you must be here about the bones.
Yes.
Some excitement they've caused, I'll tell you. What with the Ashley Nortons' disappearance, a dark mystery these 20 years and all.
Who were the Ashley Nortons?
Lived in that house 20 years ago, they did. That would be just about the time the body was buried, wouldn't it, sir?
Yes. Did you know them?
Never did see her. Saw him once or twice. Strange pair they was. Unsociable. Keeping themselves to themselves night and day in that house on the cliff. No telling what went on behind them doors.
What do people think went on?
There's some that thinks that what went on was murder.
Murder? Why?
There's those who knows the reasons better than I. I'll leave it to them to tell.
Very well. Let's see, I signed this book too, don't I?
Oh, no, sir. That's our permanent register for new guests. But you've been here before.
I? Why, no. I've never been here before in my life.
Oh, that's odd. For a moment, I thought I'd seen you here before sometime.
Mr. Stanhope?
Yes?
Inspector Drury, Scotland Yard.
Oh, happy to see you, Inspector. Come in, please.
Thank you.
I must apologize for the condition of the place, Mr. Drury. The events of the past few days have been a bit upsetting, to say the least.
I should think so.
Like a spot of sherry?
Why, thanks, yes. I had rather an enlightening conversation with Mrs. Tumley at the inn last night.
Oh?
Seems the townspeople are quite certain it was a case of murder involving some people named Ashley Norton.
Yes. Roger Ashley Norton. His wife was named Sarah.
Did you know them?
Oh, no. I'd never met them. Very few people had. You see, that was 20 years ago. The house originally belonged to my brother. He died in 1925, and I didn't come into the property until after that.
I know it's natural to jump to the conclusion of murder when one uncovers human bones, but is there any reason to suspect a motive? Did anybody disappear suddenly?
No one but the Ashley Nortons.
I see.
There's nothing to go on but gossip, and it's all highly circumstantial, of course. You see, my brother was renting this house to them furnished by the year, payable in advance, and so he rarely had occasion to call on them. But when the regular check failed to arrive on time, he paid them a visit. The house was vacant.
And it was immediately clear that no one had lived in the place for the last few months.
Your brother made inquiries, of course.
Oh, yes. No one had seen or heard from them for at least 2 months before.
And what date was that, Stanhope?
Now, let me see. That was December of 1910.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's quite all right.
Here, let me...
No. The maid will attend to it. Let me get you another.
Not right now, thanks.
Well, would you like to examine the garden?
The garden?
Yes. Where the bones were discovered.
Oh, yes, of course. Out through the French windows. Here to the side, I take it.
Yes. Here we are. Just over here, Inspector.
See. And the tree stood about here, eh?
The what?
The holly tree.
I must admit you're a jolly fine detective, sir. The gardener discovered the body while removing the dead holly tree, all right, but I wasn't aware that I mentioned the fact to Scotland Yard.
It was in my room at the inn late that night that I first began my notes. I include them now in this report, just as I wrote them then. Clovelly, Devon, May 18, 1930. The feeling that this is all a book that I've read or a play I've seen somewhere in the past has taken hold of my very soul. And the terror that grips me when I think of the future makes rational thought very difficult. But nevertheless, I have resolved to pursue the investigation until I am certain that there is no further doubt. I must discover someone who knew Ashley Norton intimately, his profession, his habits, his personality. I think I must risk tomorrow another talk with Mrs. Tumley. But meanwhile, I shall withhold any further report to Carruthers. Now, Mrs. Tumley, you said yesterday that there were some people here in Clovelly who knew the Ashley Nortons rather well.
Did I?
Yes, Mrs. Tumley.
Well, it might have been Effie Wilkes I had in mind.
Who was Effie Wilkes?
She was the Ashley Norton serving maid, sir.
And where is Effie Wilkes now?
Oh, she disappeared, sir.
She disappeared?
The same time they did, sir. And not a sight nor sound of her since. Not these 20 years.
Who else? Who else knew the Ashley Nortons?
Only t'other one I could think of would be Ben Sykes. Blind Ben, they call him now. But he could see then right enough.
And where is he?
Oh, he's hereabouts. Gone to Bideford with his nephew today. But he'll be back Wednesday, if you'd care to speak with him, sir.
Did he work for the Ashley Nortons?
In a manner of speaking, sir. He helped out with the experiments.
Experiments?
Oh, yes, sir. Mr. Ashley Norton was quite a scientist. Or so he said.
What did Ben Sykes have to do with these experiments?
Oh, he got things for them, sir.
What sort of things?
Live things, sir.
Live things?
Rabbits, animals, such like things, sir.
Oh, is that all?
No, sir. If you ask me, that wasn't all.
What else?
There was human beings, sir.
Human beings?
Yes, sir.
What human beings?
Why, I would say, sir, the nearest ones that came to hand.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm sure you know much more about this than I do, sir. But they do say those bones were the bones of a woman.
Carruthers wired today that he expects to locate the serving girl, Effie Wilkes, within a matter of hours. That means at least that she's alive. And it also means that her testimony will complete the case. And I can no longer deceive myself as to the outcome. I don't quite know why I sent Carruthers the information about Effie Wilkes. knowing as I do that I'm endangering myself by that action. Perhaps there's something of which I'm still just a little proud. I'm still primarily a detective. Well, I shall pursue this investigation impersonally and logically until the very last link in the chain. That link is Ben Sykes. Blind Ben. There is only one fact in which I can take some faint hope. Ashley Norton was a scientist, but presumably a doctor. And I can find no faintest memory in myself of any specialized scientific knowledge whatsoever. For Ben Sykes' nephew is going over to Biddeford today to bring the old man home. I shall go along and talk to him on the ride back. So you're Ben Sykes?
Aye, Blind Ben they call me. But eyes are none. I can keep up with the best of them. What's your business in Clovelly, sir?
I've come to ask you some questions about Mr. Ashley Norton.
Haven't we met before, sir?
Not that I remember, Ben.
Your voice is, oh, well, what sort of questions, sir?
Perhaps about the experiments.
I'll say naught of the experiments, sir. They were the master's private business.
Very well. Did you know Mrs. Ashley Norton? Sarah Ashley Norton?
I did, sir. And no finer woman ever walked the earth.
Did he love her?
He loved her more than life itself, but...
But what?
Well, she helped him with his experiments. She was condemned hereabouts for that. But she helped him all through these long months until she went away.
Ida! Look out! We have got the horse. Ida, Clarice is on the road!
The last I remember was the sickening sway of the wagon as it overturned in the ditch to the left of the road. I must have hit my head on something and lost consciousness just for a moment.
Help me with him.
Otto! I say, there's a nasty gash on his leg there. What about the other?
Take care of Ben. I'll look to the inspector.
Right. There you are, old fellow. Now,
Inspector, you all right, sir?
I believe so.
Here we are. There you are, sir.
Thank you. Is Ben all right? Oh, he's hurt.
His leg. I've sent for the doctor.
Let me have a look at it.
Oh, yes, sir.
No, don't roll it back.
Huh?
Now, get me a knife.
Oh, here you are.
Now, help me with this. Here. That's it. Compound fracture and bleeding pretty badly. Have you a handkerchief?
Ain't clean enough for a bandage.
It isn't a bandage. Now, get me a small stick. That's it. Now, around here, just below the patella. Now, hold on to that and relax it when I tell you.
Yes, sir.
Tibia and fibula, both compound. Dislocation of the talus. Need X-ray immediately.
What? I didn't know you was a doctor, sir.
Huh? What? Neither did I. How do you feel, Ben?
Much better, Mr. Drury. Thanks to you. She twitches now and then.
You'll be all right once it's set.
Lucky you was with us, sir.
Ben, you were going to tell me about the last time you saw Mr. Ashley Norton. Do you remember?
Yes, sir. I remember it well. He was going up to London, to the theatre, he said.
Was he going alone?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Ashley Norton had gone on ahead to do some shopping, he said.
Ben, do you remember when? What theatre?
Yes, sir. It was Christmas Eve, and the theatre was Drury Lane.
Yes, I know. I guess I knew it always.
Asking your pardon, sir, I'm an old man, and I can say things without anyone getting angry about them.
Yes, Ben, what is it?
Well then, sir, You seem like a man who's running away from something.
Oh, run.
I wouldn't run away from it any longer, sir, if I was you.
Then I believe you're the only one of us who isn't blind.
Hello, Drury. Well, welcome back. I say, though, the chief's been trying to get a hold of you all day.
Yes, I know. Is Chief Carruthers in?
No, he had to meet someone at the train. He'll be back soon, though.
When he wants me, I'll be in my office, finishing my report.
Oh, that's so. You've been on a case. Murder, wasn't it? Did you catch the fellow?
Yes, I caught him. There's little now that needs to be added. Christmas Eve, Drury Lane Theatre. And Ashley Norton went alone, he said, because his wife Sarah had gone on ahead. And the medical training, it came back to me when I needed it as though it had been my life, my former life. There can be only one conclusion to this report. Sarah Ashley Norton was murdered by her husband. The case is closed. Signed, Roger Ashley Norton, formerly Terence Drury.
Oh, come in, Drury. I've been expecting you.
Yes. Here's my report, sir.
And there's time enough for that.
If you don't mind, I'd rather you read it now. I'd like to get it over with.
Yes, but, you know, we finally traced the serving girl, Effie Wilkes.
Yes. If you don't mind.
And through her, we traced someone else.
Does it really matter now?
I think perhaps it does. You may show in the witness, Peters.
Yes. Yes, it is. Roger. Oh, Roger.
I beg your pardon, but who?
Roger, don't you remember me?
Remember you? I only remember that you were someone who was once very dear to me. And now it's too late.
No, Roger. No, it isn't too late. I'm...
Sarah.
Oh,
darling. You see, Drury, or rather Mr. Ashley Norton, it seems you and your wife did go to the Drury Lane Theatre on that Christmas Eve 20 years ago. And that very night, you were both to go on to Paris. Then at the last moment, you ran into some chap who begged you to deliver a lecture the next day. You agreed, and Mrs. Ashley Norton went on ahead. You were to meet her in Paris in 2 days.
Oh.
When you didn't come, I checked with the steamship company, and they said your ticket had been used. The thief who robbed you must have used it, but I couldn't know that. I thought you must be somewhere in France. The French police tried to trace you for years. Then I thought you must be dead. Oh, Roger.
My dear. Sarah, do you suppose you could call me Terence? I've got used to it, you know. And...
Oh, very well, Terence. You haven't changed very much, really.
I suppose you haven't either. By the way, I had excellent taste in women in those days.
Oh, my dear. Oh, and can you ever forgive me?
Forgive you? For what?
The bones.
Oh, the bones.
Yes, Well, I suppose if that Mrs. Tumley hadn't been so nosy, I wouldn't have done it. But I was afraid if they found it in the house, it would look even worse. So that's why I did it.
Did what?
Buried your demonstration skeleton in the backyard, under the holly tree.
What?
Oh!
So closes Drury's Bones, starring Boris Karloff. Tonight's study in Suspense. Suspense is produced, edited, and directed by William Spear.
There is no reason at all, Elsa Maxwell says, why everyone should not have the enjoyment of Roma wines with everyday meals and when entertaining friends.
These superb wines of California are so delightful to the taste, so very delicious with food, so smartly complimentary to friends who are your guests. It seems a shame to me that some people still miss out on such wholesomely simple, moderate, and inexpensive pleasure.
But of course, Miss Maxwell, millions already do know and enjoy Roma wines. In fact, more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wines. And that can only mean Roma wines are California's finest, always extra good, unvaryingly fine in flavor and quality, yet only pennies a glass. Roma, R-O-M-A, Roma wines.
Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Mr. Joseph Cotton, a star of Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.